Welcome to the Challenges of Change, the podcast where we explore the transformative journey towards self-improvement and personal growth. I'm your host, Laura, a mindset coach in the health and fitness industry, here to guide you through the hurdles that life throws at you. In each episode, we'll delve into practical strategies and insightful discussions to help you manage stress, regulate your emotions, upgrade your mindset, and ultimately reclaim your sense of worth. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey of change, challenges, and self-discovery. Do you struggle knowing how to navigate conflict? Do you want to use your voice and have confidence in what you want to say, but you're afraid if you do, you're going to lose your job or you're going to get in a disagreement with someone you love? Do you want to learn how to use conflict to actually build a bridge, to strengthen relationships, and to build trust? I know it seems like a wild idea, right? And it's a wild idea largely because most people don't know how to do it because most people are very emotionally immature. But I have seen unintentionally this magic that conflict holds. And that is what we do at the Challenges of Change. We directly address the challenges. So our challenge is dealing with circumstances and having conversations with people that could incite conflict with our brain often correlates with danger. Not life and death danger like lion or bear, but more like identity, belonging, judgment. The most threatening would be a potential for job loss. Regardless of why conflict is a challenge, it's still a challenge. And I don't think any of us actually like it, but that doesn't mean it isn't a tool that we can utilize. So let me give you an example. Years ago, I reached out to a family member to see if she was coming in town for Christmas. And I was new to the family, so I didn't know some of the drama or what was okay and what wasn't okay. And I didn't think it was that outrageous of a question to ask if she was coming in because I wanted to know if I should get her a gift or not. But clearly I crossed the line because we were having a good conversation and then she started ghosting me. Now I could have chosen to let the ghosting stick and recognize like, oh, I touched something I shouldn't touch and like I'm just going to shy away. But that's not who I am because also I don't learn that way. So the next day I reached out to her and I said, based on the ghosting, I feel like I may have crossed the line. If I did, I'm really sorry. That wasn't my intention. And I could use some clarity so I can make sure I don't cross it again. And this individual came back defensive because she's very used to people in her family disregarding her boundaries. So here I am, someone new wanting to marry into the family, and she's experiencing the same thing. Makes perfect sense from her scenario why she was more defensive and kind of verbally aggressive and attacked me, telling me I would never be part of the family, I'm never going to understand, and some other things that weren't super friendly. I found one thing that I could agree with. I said, you're right. I'm not part of this family. Not yet. I don't understand the history. But what I do know is you have had your boundaries crossed time and time again in this family. And so I'm not interested in being a person in this family who does that to you, but I don't know how to not cross your boundaries if you can't communicate with me what they are. Like to me, in my world, asking someone about if they're coming in town for the holidays isn't a boundary crossing experience. Can you help me understand what boundary I crossed? And she did calmly. She wasn't aggressive. She told me what the different lines were. And I said, I have one clarity question. Can I speak about it in a more general sense, or do you want me to just completely leave these facts out? She clarified. And then for years, I, I still adhere to those boundaries because I'm not interested in crossing people's boundaries. I'm interested in strengthening a relationship. And now that that is about 8 years ago that this happened, she will regularly cite that that moment, that conversation was when she realized that she could trust me, that I was going to be different for her in this family. I'll give you another example. We recently bought a house, and as those who have gone through that experience might know, the logistics of it are a pain in the behind. I was very angry with how disrespectful certain people certain parties were. And I'm not interested in letting my rage monster out and going and grumbling up them with mean words. I want to communicate my truth in a respectful way, as I would hope someone could be able to do that back to me. And in this case, when our loan agent congratulated us on our home, I was very honest and I said, I don't really want your congratulations. I would like to offer you some feedback. Please let me know if you're open to receiving that. And he said he was. And I said, I've never felt so disrespected in a process. I don't understand the logistics or the processes that were going on behind the scenes, partially because it was never communicated with me. All I know is I was randomly told day by day large sums of money that I was miraculously supposed to have that wasn't previously communicated. And we didn't get final numbers until an hour and a half before the signing. If you put your daughter or your son in that scenario, would you be happy with the loan agent who played that part for them? It's a rhetorical question, so I would bet you wouldn't. I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming partially the system, but above all else, the communication was not okay. And I'm grateful we crossed the finish line, but please know we will never work with you again because of how disrespectful you were with your communication. He said he understood that, and then he tried to defend some components of the processes and the logistics. And I said, like I said, I'm sure there are certain reasons, and the communication was always in your power. I'm not looking to blame, I'm not looking to minimize. I'm hoping that feedback can improve service because I do believe you operate from a high ethos where you want to have a good impact. And that was all I said. I have seen addressing conflict be a bridge time and time again. I've done it in coaching sessions to help people recognize when they are triggered, how they get activated, and shown them I can also bridge them back down so they can regulate again. This isn't always something I intentionally do. Sometimes I don't know lines, just like with that family member I referenced. If you don't tell me what your line is, I'm probably going to cross it because I'm just a curious person. I also would love the opportunity to apologize and take accountability when I do cross that line. And that is where some of the nuance of conflict start to come in. Because the truth is, conflict is uncomfortable. I don't like it either. I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't seek it out. But I also won't shy away from it if it means self-respect, because that's not something I'm willing to sacrifice. I don't want to pretend avoiding conflict outside doesn't leave a conflict inside, because that is the trade-off that we accept. And then we get frustrated when we aren't seen, when we aren't understood, when we aren't validated, because we're sensing danger around addressing something outside of ourselves. When we avoid external conflict, we really do allow and accept and tolerate internal conflict. So, what is the problem when we think about conflict? Like, if we zoom out, what are the components? Why are we so afraid of conflict? I mean, the simplest answer is probably because we equate it to danger, but we've also probably had a lot of bad experiences with emotionally immature people where people don't know how to take accountability. Like, most people don't know how to take accountability, largely because they misunderstand accountability as like accepting blame or saying it's right or you agree. Like, I can say that I take accountability for crossing a boundary line that I didn't know existed. That doesn't mean I think I'm wrong for crossing the line. I didn't know it existed. How can I not cross something that's invisible to me? But it's not about blame. But that is why a lot of people struggle with accountability. And to that point, if the person that you are having conflict with, that you're going to go into conflict with, it takes a high level of thinking and a strong level of grounding to be able to go into a conversation where someone can't take accountability. Because the first way to disarm someone in conflict is agreement and accountability. Like I said, with that family member, I found one thing I could agree with, and I got on the same page. We are on the same team. That is the whole purpose of it. It's not to say my sequence of events is right or better than yours. It's to say, hold on, we are having two different experiences. I'm not at all accusing you of being a bad person or saying that how you went through things was wrong. I'm saying that how I experienced what you did was this. Is that what you want? Because that wasn't cool with me, in the like most generalized terms. So people not being able to take accountability is a huge, huge reason why we struggle with conflict. Blame, like the cousin of accountability. Everyone is so afraid of doing something wrong, which is like just freaking human, that we blame other people or other things. But in reality, being able to see that there's multiple truths in any circumstance speaks to your level of intelligence, the ability to have dimensions in your own thinking. People, because they feel blamed and don't have that grounding and don't know how to take accountability, get defensive and they stop listening, which means one of the most important things that I tell clients when they're choosing or preparing or we're kind of coaching them into a conflict-oriented conversation is don't bite the bait. People like to shift conversations from whatever the conflict is that you're trying to bring up by baiting you with the personality insult or a character misunderstanding or just a plain defensiveness of them, and that then attacks you. It's not about that, which is why the real shift from conflict for the sake of conflict to creating a bridge and building strength in the relationship requires inner leadership, honestly. Because if you're going to engage in something that your brain and body categorize as dangerous, you need like detailed, attuned clarity as to why, what, who, when, all the W's. Like, what is the purpose? Why, of all the moments, that is this the moment you want to engage in conflict? Why is it important to you? Why is it important to the moment? What is the unconscious expectation you're hoping could come from this potential engagement? And most importantly, what is the message you want to communicate? Because it is hard to not bite the bait. But if you don't know what message you want to communicate, I can almost guarantee you're going to bite the bait because you can't stay on message if you don't know what the message is. So know why, know the purpose of you going in to engage with this conflict, what it means to you, the purpose of it, and the message you want to actually communicate. Know your limits. Dot, 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 asterisk, key point here, before you cross them. So this is honestly something a lot of my clients come to me with, and we coach on this is knowing how to recognize when their tolerance for that conflict-oriented conversation has kind of reached its maximum and they need space to stay regulated. Sadly, most people don't recognize it until they hear themselves yelling or they hear themselves insulting people, and then they feel bad for losing their cool. So if you don't know what your limits are, that is actually the first place you start, even before the purpose and knowing why. Because if you can't regulate yourself and you are literally saying, okay, I'm going to go and try and build this trust bridge via conflict, and then a dysregulated human being is going to give you a bunch of disorienting communication, and you're going to be like, ah, and you're going to get dysregulated. And then it's just going to feed the narrative that conflict is bad. So don't do it unless you know how to recognize your own warning signs. For instance, my warning signs when I'm getting dysregulated, I start to get more fidgety. I'm already fidgety. I start to get really, really fidgety. Like can't sit still. My legs start like doing weird pretzels. The second thing that happens is I start interrupting people and I notice my tone of voice being a little more attitudey, get a little more sass in there. And my third red flag is I feel like I have Tourette's and there's like a hot flame of words about to come out of my mouth. I rarely get to the third one. I normally stop myself when I hear interrupting, and I can even down regulate from that moment and stay in the conversation. But you need to know your warning signs if you want to be able to have conflict-oriented conversations for a purpose of building stronger relationships. And it's not even if you want to, you're going to have conflict-oriented conversations. It just doesn't have to hurt the dynamics and relationships you're in. Know when to walk away, not only if you know your warning signs, but recognizing when they aren't listening. If you are trying to keep them on message and they keep trying to shift it and focus on this or that, you can simply say, I understand that I'm bringing something sensitive to you, and that might be disorienting. I am not trying to make you feel attacked, but what I keep getting back makes me feel like you're not listening. So I feel like out of respect for the relationship and our work together or the love that we share for each other, I feel like we should take some space, balance out, because I do want to hear what you have to say, because I don't think you're doing this purposefully, but my feelings are still hurt. And I feel like we could approach this more respectfully as a team. And then take some space. This happened all the time when my husband and I were kind of doing our own growth. I would recognize before he would recognize that he was disorganized in his mind because I would keep trying to stay on message and he would kind of like pinball around. And I would ask him, like, what is your point and what is your message? Because I'm very confused. He couldn't really give me one. And that's when I would say, I love you. And there's no part of me that thinks you want to hurt me. But yet I still feel hurt. So we're missing something here. I think I need both of us just take a minute and calm down so we can understand and work together as a team because you don't want to hurt me and I don't want to be hurt, but we're still in this moment. Can we do that? And now he actually comes in much more organized, so we don't even have to do that. But in my eyes, that was me taking care of our relationship and helping him see things he couldn't see. And he's done the same thing to me. When my attitude got more sassy than I was even conscious of, he would call it out and be like, you know what, you're right. And I'd have to take a deep breath. And based on that breath, I typically would be like, okay, I need more time, or okay, we can keep going. But we do that to try and help each other be the best partners we can to each other. Is it easy? No. Do we like it? No. Do we believe it's better for our relationship? Fuck yes. Because what's the alternative? Snapping at each other, bringing up all the random moments from the past that doesn't actually do anything good. Like it's just not, it doesn't help. So not only is it important to know your limits, but to pay attention to when someone's not listening. And if you need to create space, you can do it in a way that's kind and respectful. Understand that you're not trying to argue your experience because that's what it comes down to. You can say, this is my experience. They'll say, that's not what happened. That's not true. You don't have to prove your experience. Your experience is valid. You experienced it. Trying to get them to agree to it is like trying to get them to agree that they're a bad person. They're not going to agree to it. Having the grounding in yourself to recognize, okay, this is my experience. They're trying to say that's not the experience. That's their experience. You can say that. I understand that your experience was yada, yada, yada. That does not change the reality that this was my experience. Both of those can be true. And honestly, if we're being really, really smart and really, really honest, majority of the time, more than two things are true. We just don't know how to hold that space because we're so busy trying to protect our identity, which honestly doesn't need that much protecting, but that is a different conversation for another podcast. Conflict with the intention of building trust, it's a superpower, but it requires you to know yourself. It requires you to be able to ground your own being. If you remember, I would tell you, or I mentioned how my husband would tell me, like, your attitude is sassier than normal. Do you need a minute? And I would take a deep breath, right? Based on what came after that breath. If my brain started spinning thoughts again, nope, I was not calm enough. I needed more time away from the moment. And that is how I know that. If I was able to take that deep breath, sense myself, and feel my heartbeat, then I was okay to keep having that conversation. That deep breath was kind of like that, hold on, let's recenter again. But if you don't know how to keep your own ground, if you don't know your warning signals, let alone theirs, it is challenging for all those reasons because we can't go into conflict hoping they will respond in a certain way. It's about going in because it's important to the dynamic of the relationship to be respected. So often, what people do is, I don't want to have a conflict oriented conversation because of what it'll mean, da 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 da. Fine. But then you're surprised when that person doesn't value your expertise, or you're surprised when that person doesn't come to you for your opinion, but you've never addressed your intelligence with them, so they just think you're a pushover. And this isn't like just you or one specific being. This is like a general sum of people that I experience who are frustrated that they aren't respected and valued, but they don't fight to be respected and valued. Should you have to fight? No. Are you gonna have to? Probably. That's just life. I don't make those rules. That's just life. If you want to have more safety Understand how to navigate conflict within yourself, understand your limits, know your message, don't bite the bait, and communicate with respect. The same respect that you would want from them. If you go low, you're giving them permission to go low. So where do you start? Right? That's always the first question. Okay, that's a lot of stuff, Laura. That seems like way too much stuff to get started. Well, I'm going to tell you the first thing I encourage you to do. And you can do this while you're showering, while you're folding laundry, while you're washing the dishes, while you're driving. You can do it while doing any mundane task. And for the overachievers, yeah, I'm talking to you. You can do it while you're sitting still. Yes, I know that that feels like a conundrum to the overachievers who don't like to sit still. But if you can't literally manage yourself to sit still, that's a whole different problem. And you should probably call me, but we're not going to go there right now. So where do you start? Take one of those mundane moments or kind of almost like a 5-minute personal time, call it meditation if you want to, and think of a specific disagreement that you've recently had. And don't think about what that person said or what they did that hurt you. First, recognize your own warning signs. What were the things you started to experience within yourself that are indicative of you escalating? I'm getting more and more agitated. I'm getting more and more activated. What does that look like? How do those things come out? How do you experience yourself? Do you get hot? Do you interrupt? Do you roll your eyes more? Do you catastrophize? There's a bunch of different things that people do, but use a recent historical moment to learn, because if you don't know that going forward, it's just going to be very messy. And after you do that, use the same disagreement and think about how people bait you. What do they say that makes you feel like you need to defend yourself? Because that is where you will lose your power. I've had people tell me I'm mean, I'm aggressive, I'm intimidating, I'm condescending. I mean, I've had a lot of things thrown at me, but I've learned that people telling me what I am is actually a reflection of what they are. They're feeling inferior. They're feeling intimidated. I'm not being that way. People just communicate poorly. That is what's been massively helpful in helping me not bite the bait. But regardless, what are the things that people say to you that make you want to bite back? Because that is what you need to be prepared for, to not bite back. And then think about what you might say instead. How can you stay on message? How can you say that is your experience, this is mine? How can you create separation? How can you take any degree of accountability in this to disarm them? The purpose of a conflict conversation that builds a bridge is to get on the same page. That is the first order of business. So many people are used to conflict meaning argue, fight, danger. Probably you right now. But you also can be a bridge for them and teach them it doesn't have to be that way. And then every other disagreement that comes from that gets easier when you realize this person wants to grow with me. They're not attacking me for this disagreement. They care enough about our dynamic to bring it to me. That alone is meaningful. And if you genuinely are like, I don't know where to start, but I really do need to work on this, then I thoroughly encourage you to join our brand new free community, the Challenger Circle, where we literally do inner size labs and practice conflict-oriented conversations. We actually laugh a lot in it because we know it's not real life, but we're muddled in our words, but we get our nervous system used to what it's like to stand up for ourselves, to feel a sense of empowerment, to claim our confidence, and to use our voice in a way that makes us feel like ourselves. Conflict isn't bad. It just depends on how you engage with it. Being able to have a calm, clear, grounded way of being while you're in a conflict-oriented conversation is a skill that will serve you for the rest of your life. And only you can choose when you start to engage with that. And I hope you start to choose now, especially in the Challenger Circle, because we would love to have you. So you tell me, what is the hardest part for you about conflict? Maybe that will be our next podcast. But until next time, share it with a friend, leave a comment, let me know, and thank you as always for tuning in. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of The Challenges of Change. If you're ready to stop stressing and reclaim your sense of worth, be sure to visit my website at www.changebychallenge.com. There, you'll find loads of resources, blog posts, and information on how to work with me, Laura, as your personal mindset coach. Remember, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. Don't let burnout or any other obstacle hold you back from living your best life. Take the first steps towards positive transformation today. Thank you again for listening. Stay confident, stay inspired, and embrace the challenges of change. Until next time.